Thanks for joining. This is Steve Reed with Q Markets. Want to welcome you back. This is the second in a three-part series that we're doing this month to kick off the new year. We're here with JM2 Capital, Jimmy Korte, and this week he'll be talking more about innovation, right? A culture of innovation. And so, just as a recap, last week Jimmy was speaking about, and these are available online. Really about the foundational things of process and strategy. And so really where Q Markets fits in to this very clearly is the tool is half the battle, right? It starts with strategy and then moves on to process. And as you develop those, the tool really enables you to be innovative, right? To engage your employees, to build a rewards and recognition program, to to collaborate. So just wanted to start off with a quote here that I found. And really, when we talk about culture, culture is certainly important in an organization, but there's a distinct difference when it comes to innovation, right? Are you enabling your employees to take risks? Are you okay with, at times, failure, right? Are you giving employees the ability to not only participate at an entry level, but to be parts of teams that help transform the organization? So the second half of this quote here is the culture of innovation being a specific form that's intended to promote development of innovation within the company. That's really what we're here to talk about today. And so with that, I will hand it off to Jimmy, and we're taking questions throughout, and as they come in, I'm happy to stop if you want to interrupt at any point. It's a safe group. We've got about a dozen people so far on the call, so feel free to share your feedback in the chat at the bottom. Thanks.
Thanks, Steve. I appreciate the intro and the opportunity to be here again with you guys. Good morning, everyone, or afternoon, or wherever you might be. Happy New Year to you. It's great to be back and continue this series. Welcome back to those of you who joined us last week, and welcome to those joining for the first time today. As Steve said, my name is Jimmy Korte. I'm the Vice President of Consulting Services at JM2 Capital, and I'm talking with you from our home office here in Oklahoma City. Thanks again for joining part 2 of our 3-part innovation series. Today in part 2, we'll talk about some best practices in building a culture of innovation and share some ideas of what you can do to contribute to that culture. Like last week, looks like our attendee list has a number of different professionals from a variety of industries, which is great. And you collectively represent a number of different titles and positions in your organizations, which is also nice. As we talk about a culture of innovation today, I'm going to make 2 primary assumptions. The first is that some of you are in leadership positions in your organization where you have some direct influence on the innovation process or the practice, perhaps even if it's specifically defined that way. You might actually have the word innovation in your title. Second assumption, conversely though, is that some of you are in positions where you don't have direct leadership or influence on innovation, or at least that's what your current perspective is, and we might be able to change that today. So as we dive into the content, I'll do my best to address this topic from both angles, acknowledging where some of you may not feel like you are in a position of influence to help build a culture of innovation. Hopefully, though, we'll be able to provide some helpful suggestions for you and help you realize that you can make an important impact regardless of your role. For those of you that were here, this might be a familiar slide. This is just kind of our where are we picture. We are now in part 2. Last week in part 1, we had a discussion about starting your innovation journey. Today, building a culture of innovation. And then next week in part 3, we will cover rewards and recognition. In regards to today, building a culture of innovation, I believe, is so very critical to the success of any transformative initiative. Culture is a big deal. True innovation will live and breathe and be sustained if and only when your organization's culture actually champions innovative thought and behavior and measurements. As I said, next week in part 3, we'll cover rewards and recognition in an innovation culture. What are some do's and don'ts? What are some innovative ideas, and why is it important to formally reward and recognize innovative behavior? So with that quick overview and introduction to the 3-part series, I'll now do a quick, if you'll bear with me, a quick introduction to JM2 Capital. We are a small consulting and wealth management company here in Oklahoma City. We focus our services usually on small and mid-sized companies who are looking for strategic advice and expertise as they go through transformative periods or growth or transitions in their organization. Our help comes in different forms, but primarily through advisory services, interim executive and project leadership, culture assessments, business strategy, and process execution. As consultants, our team's DNA is built from years of management consulting experience, entrepreneurial ventures, operational leadership in various industries, buy and sell transaction leadership, etc. But also as business owners and P&L leaders, our stripes in the innovation space with different companies. Learn how to become and to be life innovation experiences to come in service industries as broadly as the sports and process of internet retail. Hopefully, where you can relate to us is where our learning have rarely come trial and error and through struggles and failures and frustrations. Lastly, we work with high net worth individuals and family offices in our wealth management practice and enjoy the challenges of being a strategic investor when we see something exciting about a possible investment. All right, so enough about JM2 Capital. Let's get on to building a culture of innovation. But before we do that, what I'd like to do now is kind of enter our interactive portion of our webinar today. And so let me set the stage and then we'll do a little poll with you guys. In our culture and innovation practice, we have what we call an innovation capability assessment. A lot of words there, but for our clients or prospects to complete, it does a couple of things. First, it provides them with an opportunity to ask some critical questions of themselves related to where they are on their journey of innovation and how well they are doing in relation to those goals. The activity of the survey itself, as people go through it, actually opens their minds and captures attention to realize there might be a lot they can improve upon. The second thing that happens is we provide numeric results that highlight the gap between where they assess themselves across a variety of innovation capabilities with the level of importance they actually place on those capabilities. So how important is it and where do you score against it? The capabilities cover areas like strategy, culture, processes, resources, metrics, and systems. So as a quick example, we have 3 questions in a poll for you today. These questions are included in today's world and within our culture capabilities section of the assessment. Surprise, surprise. We'll have you complete the 3 questions to give you an idea of the types of questions in the assessment. In this case, we'll try to be brief. We won't bother to ask you the questions about your perceived level of importance, but we will we'll at least give you a chance to answer some of the questions about where you see yourselves. All right, so first of all, here's the poll. I'm going to launch this. There'll be 3 questions. And so go ahead and read through these and score yourself. And I'll give it a little bit of time here. Give you a chance to vote. I can see how that looks as you vote, and I'll be quiet for a minute. All right, starting getting a few answers here. Hopefully most of you are able to submit some responses. You're in a position to do that. The first question is, please score the level of executive team involvement in innovation at your company. And essentially it's sort of a five scale score where starting from 1, you have, the option is none, and then like there is no executive team involvement in innovation, then I think I remember it was brought up at a previous meeting would be kind of the next level. The third is they're saying the right things, but, and then the fourth is I know who owns innovation and he or she is a good champion. And then the last is innovation is the number one priority for our executive team. So that from the scale from no involvement to it's the number one priority. I'm starting to get some more responses here. Hopefully that's a good sign that people are seeing it. The second question is, how receptive is your organization to new ideas? And the options are, we already know everything, to thanks for sharing your idea, what's next on the agenda. The third is, we want everyone to be innovative this year while we hit our margin targets. The fourth is, we've invested in tools to capture new ideas and projects to implement them. Or the top score would be, we receive training, feedback, time, and resources to think, act, share, and celebrate. And then the third here, because it looks like we've slowed down on responses, how tolerant is your company of innovation risk and failure? The first option being failure means fired. Second, ouch, nice try, but don't let it happen again. Third, we learned a lot from that. How can we improve? Fourth, thanks to those who stuck their necks out for the greater good. And fifth, we learn more by failing fast and celebrate in a timely fashion. So I'll end the poll there. Sorry for any of those technical difficulties. Anyway, that just gives you an idea of some of the questions that we ask in our assessment. Again, there's another part that actually allows you to sort of scale or score yourself on the level of importance for each of those capabilities. And then it sends back a result that shows the gap between where you see yourself versus the level of importance that's placed on that particular capability. So we can talk about that more later, but just wanted to give you a chance to get a sense and maybe set the stage for what your culture of innovation is in your organization. All right, moving on. So as we dig into this, let's start at a place where I think a lot of people think is sort of the primary destination. What are the best practices? Some think just give me the best practices and we will figure it out from there. I know that Steve and his team at Q Markets get these questions all the time, even after a company has implemented their innovation platform. But you know, what are these questions are like, what are the best practices for gathering innovative ideas? What are the best practices for innovation leadership engagement? What are the best practices for innovation rewards and recognition? Just please share some best practices so we don't have to start from scratch. I think that is the type of thing that Steve probably gets all the time. But when it comes to best practices for building an innovation culture, in our experience, I'll share a list that captures the best. Regardless of the size of the organization, we believe the best practices apply to you, and here we are. So first of all, innovation efforts, funding, and priorities are aligned with corporate strategy. Second, innovation enjoys executive attention alongside other critical performance metrics. Third, successes and failures are celebrated. Innovation failure is regarded as a valuable learning opportunity. A high-profile rewards and recognition program is widely communicated, and innovation language is established and used across the business. So let's dig into these a little bit more, and I'll share some examples for you. So first of all, innovation efforts, funding, and priorities are aligned with corporate strategy. I'm going to pick on Mathena Incorporated, which was the predecessor and launch point for our team here at JM2 Capital. Back in 2001, after a couple of decades of solid, stable existence, but very limited growth, Mathena continued to focus its energy equipment rental and manufacturing company on stable drilling products. They manufactured them and then run them out to large organizations. As long as there were drilling sites, there would be demand for Mathena products. And so they just had a nice little existence. But in 2005, the new CEO created a new and more aggressive strategy. With a push into green energy, Mathena put their newfound focus and creativity into the creation of more green, efficient, and eco-friendly products. This energized the team and kickstarted a decade of previously unrealized growth and profitability. By 2012, the company again refined its strategy and began innovating its product development by introducing new digital and data-centric products. With each new product launch came additional intellectual property and trademarks that elevated the company's value in the eyes of potential partners and investors. Within 10 years of these new innovative strategies and product launches, Mathena grew from a $6 million a year business to a rapidly growing and innovative $90 million a year juggernaut. And in 2015, Mathena was able to sell to a strategic buyer for an above market evaluation, which ultimately led to the founding of JM2 Capital, where we now take those lessons of innovation alignment with our corporate strategy to our clients and investment partners. The next best practice is innovation enjoys executive attention alongside other critical performance metrics. This is a little self-explanatory. The point is, having the executive team dedicating funds to innovative activities raises awareness of those activities, viewing that funding as just as important as other strategic investments. And when they do so, they'll continue to drive ownership and accountability and thereby improve chances for innovation success and sustainability. The next best practice is successes and failures are celebrated. And so this is another sort of example I can share from my past. In a previous organization, we had weekly leadership calls, which is pretty normal. Each of us that ran a practice in our respective cities would call into that meeting every week. The firm, although it was kind of your traditional management consulting company, was actually very innovative, and we encouraged taking risks and being innovative across our teams. After one particularly painful year, though, where we missed the vast majority of our goals and growth objectives, our CEO challenged us to innovate and to start taking some more chances, to think differently, and as he kept saying, to do differently. So we each committed to 3 primary innovative risks, and we'd take those risks that year with our teams in our respective markets, and each of ours was unique compared to the others. We shared those goals and expectations with one another at the beginning of the year, and then checked on each other on our weekly calls. From one week to the next, we'd take turns sharing our successes and our failures as we tried to innovate and take chances to create a breakthrough experience we could all learn from and apply. We shared the good and the bad, but most importantly, we shared them openly with vulnerability and a desire to learn from one another. We created silly gifts and acknowledgments for our successes and our failures, and then actually published them in our company newsletter. It was a wonderful year of successes and failures. We learned from one another and grew at a record pace. We also grew as a team. Not having to hide our failures or uncomfortably try to share only the good was so powerful and created an openness and a camaraderie unlike anything we'd ever done before. The next best practice, innovation failure, is regarded as a valuable learning opportunity. Thomas Edison's teachers said he was, quote unquote, too stupid to learn anything. He was fired from his first 2 jobs for being unproductive. As an inventor, Edison made 1,000 unsuccessful attempts at inventing the light bulb. When a reporter asked him, how did it feel to fail 1,000 times? Edison famously replied, I didn't fail 1,000 times. The light bulb was an invention with 1,000 steps. I know this sounds a little easy. Maybe this best practice sounds like, okay, yeah, that's super simple. Almost as if you can just tell everyone to share their failures and all will be well. But the reality is that some of us may not work at a company where the culture allows for such sharing. I get that. And finding the right venue to share the learnings may be a huge challenge as well. Each situation is unique, But what we can tell you with confidence is that the most innovative cultures make this a reality. Sometimes all it takes is the first story. Find the champion of culture and encourage him or her to begin sharing these failures openly with the goal of learning for everyone. Next best practice is a high profile rewards and recognition program is widely communicated. I experienced a great example of this when I worked for a fast growing software company in Austin, Texas back in the year 2000 and 2001. As our company evolved to meet challenging customer demands, our CEO initiated a customer success strategy. Everything we did, everything we measured, everything we celebrated was related to our customers, literally declaring publicly if their relationship with us and their investment in our software was a true success. And that success was defined specifically and uniquely by each customer. To keep us all centered on our individual customer success and to recognize those who reached actual publicized success, our CEO scheduled weekly Friday afternoon parties on the patio, or POPs, P-O-P-S, which overlooked beautiful Lake Austin. Each team who had a customer declare success that week would be recognized, congratulated, and celebrated by the entire company at the big party on the patio. If no customers declared success in a particular week, there was no party. But let me tell you, when we had a team or multiple teams to recognize, those parties were an amazing celebration. No two success stories were the same. Each customer's definition of success was unique. We each had to be flexible and creative and responsive to our customers in order to achieve that success. The stories of success were shared with the entire company. Teams were cheered and individuals were recognized, and the CEO was front and center in making the announcements. It truly was a high-profile reward and recognition program that was communicated company-wide. Our final best practice is innovation language is established and used across the business. If you think a minute about some of the most creative and innovative organizations or teams you've ever seen, you'll see one thing they share in common. It's a shared language. These teams or organizations create a way of communication that reinforces the group's shared identity. They use catchphrases and silly words to describe otherwise normal activities. They have their little words and unique nomenclature to describe their collaborative efforts, interests, and activities. It's a powerful bonding mechanism. Yes, I know if you're on the outside looking in, these little subcultures are often annoying and sometimes even the target of ridicule from those not in the inner circle. But for those who actually are inside the circle, it's a comforting reinforcement of the collaboration and interconnectedness of the group, and that can be empowering. And what we find is that in the world of innovation, those organizations who foster an innovative culture are those who share a common language that bonds people together. It builds friendships, it increases trust, and it creates a unifying creative spirit. So, from our perspective, those are the best practices for building a culture of innovation in any organization. But the phrase building a culture of innovation, what does that really mean? And what can you or what can I actually do about it? What kind of influence can I actually have on my company culture, you may be thinking? Or maybe you're thinking, how am I supposed to make a difference in the role that I have? I'm simply not empowered to make these decisions or lead a cultural change. It's not like I work at Apple or Zappos or 3M, where innovation is practically ingrained in the daily culture of the organization. What am I supposed to do about it? It's at this point where I have a huge challenge to remain relevant for each of you, especially as we come to the end of this call. I certainly don't know anything about your respective company culture. I don't know your leadership team. I don't know if innovation is built into the fabric of your company. In all likelihood, it's probably not. So there's only so much I can say that won't feel like platitudes or come across as generic consulting speak. But what I can at least talk about is what you can control. And if you take to heart some of these concepts, you truly can make a difference in helping to build a culture of innovation in your organization. So what can you control? Well, you can control your mindset. For example, get rid of the fear of failure. Be courageous. Think creatively and realize that innovations can be found in non-obvious places. Think creatively, like within the products you use to do your job, within the processes you follow or wish you didn't have to follow, and within the standard business models. The need for innovation can be found almost anywhere. You just have to open your mind and look for them. What else can you control? Your skill set. The best innovative cultures are driven and influenced by innovative people. It's not with people who have innovation degrees, because those don't really exist. It's with talented people who continuously strive to improve their skills through reading, training, collaboration, and sharing. Investing in good people is much more powerful than investing in ideas. So invest in yourself. What else can you control? Your attitude. Now, this picture was intended to get your attention. I'm not suggesting your attitude mirror Ron Burgundy, but if you look at his body language, you can see the confidence. You can see his determination to succeed. If you believe you can make a difference, then you can. I believe attitude is a different mindset in that, I believe attitude is different than mindset in that mindset is where and what you're thinking about. Attitude is the way and how you are thinking. And lastly, you can control your effort. As a father of teenagers and as a leader of teams, I know how much difference effort makes. Effort is what brings about results. When your mindset is right and your skill set has you prepared to offer new insights and your attitude is driving you to make a difference, it's your efforts to put into action a culture of innovation that will produce the results. That much you can control. You know, an old Jewish proverb, as we wrap up here, an old Jewish proverb states that a little bit of light dispels a lot of darkness. No matter how dark a room may be, if there is just a little bit of light, it will be seen. So I encourage you, regardless of your role in your organization, to be that light as you strive to build a culture of innovation. As a leader with significant influence, or as one of the many in the group of loyal employees who have a narrowly defined set of duties, you can be that light. You can make a difference and cast a new light on your company culture in perhaps small, but nevertheless meaningful ways. So to wrap it up, again, as a reminder, next week we'll go through part 3, rewards and recognition. And in the meantime, if you'd like to learn more about how we can, with an assessment, we'd love to hear from you, and you feel free to email me. And with that, Steve, I'll hand it back to you.
Yeah, and before everyone goes, I want to make a point here. So next week at the same time, we'll have the follow-up discussion that Jimmy mentioned. But I think this is a good time because for me, I've known Jimmy for a while. I've seen him in front of clients. He mentioned an assessment. I would recommend to everyone here because the list is very familiar to me. Reach out to Jimmy, reach out to myself. I'm happy to facilitate this and let him just ask some hard questions and basically give you that assessment so that you can understand what a next step might be. So certainly what we don't want to do, and hopefully what you've seen today and last week and you'll see next week, is not a sales pitch. And I've really enjoyed today. There were some great insights, but I would challenge you all, especially the ones I know that are struggling. There's things that can be done, right? Reach out to Jimmy, reach out to myself, and let's, I'll see you all next week and make some concrete steps because right now is a great time to work and transform your organization. So appreciate everybody joining. Jimmy, thanks as always for your insights, and we'll talk to you all next week.